Oh, okay. All right. So I'm here with Andre Coleman, who is my deputy editor at the Pasadena Weekly, Southland Publishing for many years, 17 years. And you also you had like a ton of perspective from that point of view, but you also directed the first version of the sitcom
Right.
pilot, which we'll touch on also. And yeah, so I'm going to just jump in. So
Hang on.
so much,
Come on. Go
what?
ahead.
Oh, so much of being able to do Radio Titans and Grand Theft Audio hinged on the fact that I was able to swing such a good deal for my time at the Pasadena Weekly that I only had to be at the office Mondays and Tuesdays, and then Wednesdays till 1 when we went to press. And then the rest of the week, I was theoretically supposed to be doing some work from home.
Yeah,
but
theoretically.
Of course, we all know that almost never happened. And, you know, and it was also a cool synergy of like that I would be able to get better stars for the paper for my articles if I was able to convince people, hey, you'll get a podcast also. So I would do the interviews most of the time as a podcast, exploit that on my station, and then turn those interviews into the articles for the paper. And anyway, so I'm just trying to see from the Southland point of view and from your point of view, how do you think that worked out? And Kevin, the head editor, he allowed it to happen, but he's pretty grouchy for some reason and doesn't seem to want to do this documentary. So if you can speak, you know, from what do you think is going on with him as well or throughout this time?
Well, I have no idea about that part of it. And
Yeah.
I only speak from my own point of view. I think it worked out for you. And I think to some degree it worked out for the weekly, I guess. You know, it was, the stories were good. Your writing was always strong. But like you said, you know, that arrangement you had on your time of 2.5 days in the office and then 2.5 days at the house watching The View and doing whatever else you wanted to do. That was just gold, man. That was gold. I mean, anybody would have loved to have something like that. So really, you were kind of getting paid to do your podcast when you think about it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, paid very little, but paid, yes.
Yeah, I mean the the money we didn't make is legendary, I guess, is what we should call it. But you know, it all worked out for you. I think you got some really good names for the paper and some really good names for your own personal project, and the stories were always good. So why not?
Yeah. So like, do you have any idea whether others at the company, whether it be Kevin or the publishers, John and Dina, John surprised me by saying that he never liked the arrangement. That's one reason he's saying he wouldn't be the best person to talk to from the company. So I don't know what his problem was, because I mean, like I said, I always brought the stars.
Well, why would anybody like the arrangement? I mean, how can you be a full-timer and then a freelancer at the same job and at the same time? I don't know how you set that up, but you know, you did it. So I think from his point of view, anybody in management probably wouldn't like the deal, kind of thing, but any worker would love the deal.
Yeah.
Is what I think about it. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, whenever you can get over on the company, good for you. You got over on them, because God knows they weren't paying us what we were worth. So that's on them.
Yeah, it was sort of like giving myself 100% raise in a way, because yeah.
Well, you were invested in yourself, man, and they weren't going to invest in you. I mean, they showed us that over and over and over.
Yeah.
Hey, what'd you ever do with that 10% you got back after they cut our pay and promised they were going to return it?
Oh yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that check's on the way too.
Yeah. So as far as the sitcom goes, like you shot the first version and you did a pretty good job. The problem was, I mean, I'll take the blame for it because you certainly put a lot of time and effort into it, and there's some of it that was pretty good, but it was a complete lack of financial resources on my part, which led you to be the mother of invention, where you were really trying, you shot it on an iPhone, which has become a more and more of a trend in the years since then. This is like 2015, and nowadays a lot more people are doing it, and iPhones are have commercials selling that point.
Right.
But you kind of were ahead of the curve, I gotta say, that I didn't quite realize at the time. Like, oh, maybe it turned out even better than I realized.
I shot the best version of that, in my opinion. I've seen every
Hmm.
version of it. I still think I shot the funniest version. The script changed over time, and other directors came in with their vision. But I thought we had something really gold in the script. Um, I agree with you. I think the whole thing was ahead of its time, kind of thing. It definitely, had we gotten some gold on the camera, and all of it wasn't gold, but some of it was, I think that we had something that definitely, now when you look at these streaming services and you look at, all that stuff, I think we had something definitely, at least that pilot episode would have played somewhere. I
Hmm.
mean, when you look at the performances that we got out of you, um, and I was actually one of the characters. One of the characters was based on me.
Yeah.
When we looked at what we did at Robin's Restaurant, which is gone now, we got some amazing stuff there. We got some really hilarious stuff in the barbershop. Uh, we got some funny stuff on there. I mean, I wish I still had the footage. I think I sent all the footage to you. Um, if you don't have it, it's gone. Let's just put it like that. So, but we got some great stuff. And I mean, I enjoyed that work, but I can definitely see why it was reshot, you know.
Okay.
But
Um,
now what's cool is I do own the rights to that, one of the storylines from that script. So whenever you're ready, we can always talk about redoing what we originally did, and restoring it back to that glory. I would love to do that because now, like you said, now everybody's shooting stuff on an iPhone. We could get 3 iPhones, shoot it from 3 different angles. We could have gold.
and and I'm also, I mean, we should talk more what this is over when we stop taping, but I'm much more open to, because it was a more of a racier script, the plot line. I was
Yeah,
getting self-conscious about, oh, what are people going to think in various respects. And the thing is, in doing this documentary, I'm realizing, I had stuff from all over the map. I had everything from G-rated stuff to very R-rated stuff, and there's nothing wrong with any of it. You got to just own it and be proud of it. And so if it's a TV 14 or whatever, or even TV mature, then as long as it's funny, that's what matters. And and so yeah, I'd be open to that.
well, the other thing about it too is that the stuff people are talking about now, these race conversations that people are having, that original script covered some of that stuff. So I think your writing was ahead of its time. I think your writing at the paper was ahead of its time. I think what's funny is that neither you or I were model employees of Southland Publishing. Um, uh, it's amazing. It's funny that John says he didn't like that arrangement, but he never said anything about what time you came in and our 3 hour lunches. I mean,
No.
I think they would be more concerned about that than anything else. I mean, I disappeared sometimes for half of the workday.
Yes, I know you were always at your mom's. Were you
Yep.
really at your mom's or somewhere else?
I would say 65% of the time I actually was.
The other 35?
The other 35, I mean, sometimes I'd be having lunch someplace. Sometimes I would just be pissed off at, about the job and what we were getting paid. So I would just go, you know what, my work's done. F it. I'm just gonna go home. Sometimes I would just go home. You know,
Yeah. What
I
about, okay,
got to a place. I got to a place. I think like you did eventually, but I think I got there first. I got to a place eventually where I think my work performance kind of leveled out according to what they were paying me at some point, and I wasn't going to give them any more, especially after I ended up in the hospital. Um, it was like, okay, really after that, and I never voiced it to you or to Kevin. Really after that, I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not giving them any more than they're giving me, and I that's just how it is.
So I guess the one other thing I should ask about is um, I was dying to have John or Kevin talk about this, but chances are they won't. The sitcom incident when we shot the second round, and or I don't know if it was the second round or the third round, where we got busted. It was the second round, I think.
We shot
Um,
at the office.
yeah, we shot at the office. We shot at the office the first time, we got away with it. And then the second
Oh yeah,
time,
I shot at the office.
yeah, you did. Yeah, but there was a much more elaborate setup the second
The
time
second time,
because
right?
there were different problems with with that version of it, but the director really had some serious equipment involved, and
Right,
and she was trying some very inventive shots where like she was standing on top of desks and aiming
right,
down with a big
right.
camera and all, and so anyway, but the thing I'll never forget, two things about it, just seeing what you think about this, was I was describing this in another interview with Ed Galvez, one of the actors earlier, um, that Kevin said, okay, I'll let you in the office, but from 8:30 to noon or 8 to noon. And he let us go till 1 actually, because we were working fast, but there was just no way it'd be done by noon. And we had one last shot we needed, scene we needed. And so me and the other actors playing the editors, you and Kevin's characters, we were sitting around a round table, and she had this weird approach of
Oh yeah,
doing overly
yeah.
stylized shots. And so
Yep.
she wanted to like go around the table really slow a couple of times while we're talking instead of quick, fast jump cuts the way
Right.
comedy ought to be. And anyways, while she's in the middle of that, 1 o'clock hits, Kevin starts stomping around the office like loudly and taking tape off the floor. And he's like, all right, enough of this shit. It's been an extra hour. Enough. Everybody pack your shit up and leave. And so everybody's like tearing tape up, off the floor, all sorts of things. And we think we're done. And then one extra left a coffee cup with some coffee in it under
Yeah.
the reception desk. And then on Monday morning, she found it. And before I even got to the office, and she'd flipped out thinking somebody had broken into the office, had
Yep.
raided all the valuable Southland files, and it was all hell had broken loose. And I was told that John called me into his office, and I don't know how I survived, but he said the big issue for them was not getting permission to put them at liability if anybody had gotten hurt. And I can see that. But at the same time, it was still pretty amazing, that we tried to get away with it. And we got foiled by a coffee cup.
I think what would be amazing is a pilot on making that pilot.
Yeah.
Would be even more amazing because nobody would believe it. But it was funny when the coffee cup got you busted. It was hilarious when they called you in for that. And I remember saying, all the things all the things we've done, and you were gonna get, I thought you were gonna get fired. I was like, and this guy's gonna get fired for this compared to everything else that we've done in this place. I mean, come on. It was ridiculous, to tell you the truth. It was, I understand why they called you in, and they should have. I get that part, but seriously, I mean, that's what we got to. I think we did some amazing, amazing work. I mean, we did award-winning work, beat the daily paper consistently in the art section. A lot of people don't know you were in charge of that section.
Yeah.
And an editorial. You wrote all of arts, I wrote all of editorial. We did some amazing work, but I think us doing that amazing work at the level you and I, eventually we hit a stride. And when we hit a stride, man, we could go. It hurt us because we couldn't get extra help because they just always went, oh, Dre and Carl can handle it, And because we did it on the cheap for so long, they were never going to give us raises. We figured that out. So guess what? Your raise was using the building that day. That was your perk. Good for you.
Yeah. Okay. Any other angle that you think should be addressed that from Titans or my arrangement or anything else?
I think that any program on the Pasadena Weekly is a drama, is a comedy, is a tragedy, is a coming of age story for you and I.
Yeah.
And I think it also speaks to, you did a comedic version of it, but as I told you several times, you should have included some drama, because that was also a death of print journalism story. A lot of places, as you and I both know, a lot of print mediums wouldn't survive COVID. They haven't survived. And if you and I had been there when this pandemic hit, we probably both would have lost our jobs. I mean, we know people that did. I think there are 2 people there that we now know. That's all that's left. So it was the best of times. It was the worst of times, if I have to be cliched.
Yeah. All right. Hang on. I'm going to hit pause.